The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The New York Knicks are up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics after coming back from 20 down for the second straight game against the defending champs.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
91-90, Knicks win 2-0 over the Boston Celtics. I'm sorry I'm not yelling about it more. My voice is so cooked from doing too much of that at the bar that I was at today. Excuse the little bit of fried vocal cords here. I'll be better by tomorrow, I promise. But let's talk through the individual player performances here. So Mikal Bridges, 14 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals. Got to give him his props again, mostly because I spent most of the game sitting at this bar with my friends lamenting Mikal Bridges, and all of us did, being like, dude, like, you got to make some shots. Like you got to do something here, like on offense, because he was playing good defense again, but it was just like, you weren't getting anything out of him on offense. And he literally scores all 14 of those points in the fourth quarter. The Knicks clearly have some fourth quarter risers on this team. Jalen Brunson, obviously the clutch player of the year, but Mikal Bridges has been coming through in fourth quarters. OG Anunoby has hit a game winner already for them this year. Karl-Anthony Towns had some big fourth quarters throughout the year. They've got some guys that can carry you across the finish line. Mikal Bridges is no exception. And the final play was just fantastic defense from him. You know, once again, ending a game with Mikal Bridges bottling someone up and ending with the ball in his hands instead of theirs on what should have been a last second game tying or winning shot attempt. He just completely shuts that down. And again, you know, I'll give him credit again, and I'll get to him in a minute, but like Mitchell Robinson, great point of attack defense on that final play to funnel Tatum to where they wanted him to go. Then great job by OG getting onto Tatum closer to under the hoop, like more towards the baseline where Mitch had funneled him. And then Mikal, great instincts, knowing exactly when to cheat over from Jaylen Brown and where exactly he had to be to snatch the ball from Tatum. He does that. Tatum is clearly like realizes he's bottled up, panics, starts trying to pass the ball out. Mikal just gets one of those big long arms up there, grabs that thing, pulls it in tight, and then tosses it down the court to Jalen Brunson as the last 3 seconds run off. Just a fantastic final play from all 3 guys involved, and just proof positive of like the Knicks are real blessed right now to have those 3 guys on the same team and able to deploy this like defensive death lineup when they need it down the stretch of a game, along with Deuce McBride too, along with Josh Hart. You know, just they have a nasty 5-man unit that no team should want to try to have to score a final bucket on. And clearly a very clutch defender in Mikal Bridges. But I mean, I don't want to like underscore it too much, but 0 for 8, 0 for his first 8 going into the fourth. And then he starts hitting from mid-range. Things open up from there. Then he starts hitting 3 suddenly. Just an enormous effort from Mikal Bridges. So shout out to him for getting that done. And also for Tibbs for kind of empowering him to run the offense a little bit in the fourth quarter, which little bit of mixed results. Like it wasn't perfect. I think that I think the Celtics exploited a little bit the fact that his ball handling isn't quite like peak, but all in all, solid. Like it was a good strategic adjustment. And, you know, I think that Bridges did a really good job with it. Speaking of guys who did really great in the role that they were cast in today, I don't even think his name's come up yet. And that's a shame because he literally led the Knicks in scoring. But Josh Hart, 23 points, 9 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists, just stepped up to every challenge that Boston put in his way as far as leaving him alone, trying to get in his head in that way, trying to, you know, make him doubt himself. Josh clearly did a little bit early on. Like you could tell he was a little reluctant to shoot, though he did hit a 3 in the first quarter, which was great. But then down the stretch again, you know, during this big run by the Knicks, he hits 2 big threes. And like I think Gavin and I talked about it in our last episode. Like, Gavin posed the question, like, does Josh Hart need to shoot more threes for the Knicks to win this series? And I was kind of like, I don't think he needs to shoot more. I think he needs to, because he shot 5 in the last game. This one he shoots 6, I believe, was his total 3. Yeah, it was 3 of 6 that he shot. So didn't really shoot too much more or too many more in terms of 3-pointers, but made them. I think that's the main thing. Like, if he's taking that many threes per game and he can make like 3 of them, they're going to come at pretty big moments, because the Celtics are going to try to force the ball to him when they don't want to give anyone else a chance to score the basketball, and it's going to be on Hart to occasionally burn them from 3 enough that they kind of stay honest on him late in games, and then also to attack off the dribble and get his points that way too. Did so much of that in this game. Really did a good job of getting inside, finishing, had some really nice cuts. Like, one in particular stands out to me where he got a really nice pass from Brunson. Brunson was kind of stranded on the right side of the court, and Hart just cuts in from the left. Brunson hits him with a great pass. And then Hart goes up with a reverse layup around Luke Cornett, which is not easy. Just a fantastic look from him there. And then, finished like a crazy person around the rim, just unstoppable in that regard. But yeah, otherwise just Josh Hart things, good job of getting boards when the Knicks needed them, and flying around the perimeter, contesting shots, like kind of being almost like the free safety. Because, obviously McHale and OG are dealing with some of the tougher man assignments at points, although he picked up Brown for a little while in this game and did fairly well on him too, but just a great job from Josh Hart all around. It makes my heart happy seeing him win the Knicks playoff game like this. And, I love watching him play. I love having him on the team, and confident Josh Hart is the best Josh Hart. And that was who showed up in this game. And that's who's got to show up the rest of the series if the Knicks want to close this thing out and make their first Eastern Conference Finals appearance in over 20 years. That's crazy to say. Mitchell Robinson, 6 points, 8 boards, 3 steals. And I think got to give Mitch the love he deserves here. It's a team high plus 19 in 22 minutes. I think he was the driving force in this game. I think he completely walled off the paint for the Celtics. I think we've seen through the first 2 games of this series, there's perhaps no player on the Knicks that scares the Celtics more than Mitchell Robinson. I don't think that's a hot take. I think he scares them. I think that's why they keep fouling to take him out of games. I mean, I give Tibbs a lot of credit actually for how he managed this one, but in the fourth quarter, the Celtics did that. They started fouling Mitch, and it seemed like they were about to throw Hack-a-Mitch into effect. But smartly, Tibbs knew, like, well, they're 2 fouls away from the bonus, so they fouled Mitch once, and then the Knicks inbound the ball, and then they foul Mitch again, and then Tibbs pulled Mitch and threw OG back in, and it worked. I mean, I hate to see Mitch have to get taken out by something like that, but the fact of the matter is there's only so many fouls that you can have. And there's only really 2 bigs that are really playing at a good level for the Celtics right now. Kristaps Porzingis, whatever this infection is that he has, he does not look good. He looks a step slow. He is missing easy shots that I feel like he should be making. He's not really getting into like screens with gusto. Something's off with him. He does not look good. The minutes that he was on in this game, the Mitch and Porzingis minutes where they were matched up, some of the best minutes for the Knicks in this whole game, which is crazy because you think that would be a matchup that at full strength could give Mitch fits. And, I'm sure it could, but KP is not himself right now. So keep abusing that as much as you can. But in the meantime, if they want to do the Hack-a-Mitch thing, if you're going to willingly get like Luke Cornett in foul trouble, be my guest. If you want to willingly get anyone in foul trouble, be my guest on behalf of that. Certain points, I think Tibbs will roll with it and stick with Hack-a-Mitch. Other times, I think he will be reactive and take Mitch out. But, good for Mitch. Like, he even said it after the game, like, that he was like, I'm paraphrasing because I forget exactly what he said, but more or less like, oh, I'm flattered that they think I'm so good that they have to foul me to get me out of the game. It's a huge compliment because he's winning his minutes in that dominant a fashion. But yeah, again, can't stress enough, like that last play all happens because of Mitch. I think that's the greatest utility that he offers, is that he can switch on to anybody and he can contain them, and he can keep them contained on the perimeter. He can potentially block a three. That ability has never left him. And he's definitely great at just being big, using those arms, using his body, directing a guy where he wants them to go, and then guiding them, in this case, right into the jaws of a buzzsaw, with OG and Mikhail on the other side of the court, where he just got swallowed up by them. So yeah, I mean, just a phenomenal defensive game by Mitch. I mean, getting on the floor, getting steals, had a really nice one on Pritchard where he just kind of like blew up Pritchard's spot early and just like took the ball right away from him. Took one from Horford on the perimeter in the second, and that was like one of kind of the catalysts to get the Knicks a little closer before half. Like they kind of they got it within 10 before half, which felt like a really big deal, and that was in large part to Mitch like stepping things up on defense. So that was great.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, and you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
The Oklahoma City Thunder bounced back in a big way in Game 2.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A lot was going wrong for the Thunder coming out of game number 1. You're down 0-1 in a spot that historically teams with the Thunder's rest advantage win that game. But we know what happened in game 1. It did put this young team in the biggest spot they've ever been in. They've never had to play after a deflating loss of this magnitude, because they've never suffered a game like that came down to the wire in the playoffs and you lost it late and you feel like you could have it back. The only other resembling game would be Game 6 of Dallas last season to end their season. So after questions were brought up all day in the last 2 days about the Thunder's youngsters and do they have enough, and are they are they experienced enough to win, and does J-Dub have it, does Chet have it? Chet mentioned after the game that he knew he was getting ripped on social media, so he stayed off of it. This was a must-win game from OKC, and they answered the call. This was a challenge from their superstar, SGA, after game 1, saying he was excited for game 2 to see what this team is made of, and they're made of the right stuff. Because when you look at game number 2, the Thunder, they were the more physical team. They wanted this game more. Their activity on the glass was night and day, chasing down the long caroms off the rim, putting their nose into the fight down low, even if it cost them a few loose ball fouls and elbows to the face and bumps and bruises, just swarming to every loose ball, hitting the deck up 20 in this game. They didn't do any of that in game 1. In a competitive game, they did none of that. So much so that Jalen Williams post-game talked about how they were just watching. They were just watching. Tonight, they weren't just watching. Tonight, the Oklahoma City Thunder were competing on every play. Now, hear me, they were not winning every play, but they competed every play. And it gave them a shot to win every play. And if you give yourself the chance to win every play, then you do win those plays, you win the game. And it all builds upon itself. And this game snowballed to a degree that a lot of it is garbage time. A lot of it didn't matter, but it had to get to that point. And so whenever you were accumulating that snow to grow this snowball downhill, OKC did everything right. It wasn't just Denver came into this game lethargic. Denver played all their guys through the third quarter. They just couldn't make a dent in what Oklahoma City was doing. They had a much better offensive flow the entire game, generating clean looks from threes, this time making them. They attacked extremely hard off the catch. And think of that. Everyone who had to attack off the catch is all of the non-SGA players, all the players who had question marks about their game entering game 2, but they responded with an aggressive game and they were able to be poised in this spot. And that's on down the roster from number 1 to number 18. That was on down the roster of the poise and mental maturity of this group. I thought was important from game number 2, because it would have been easy for a guy like Chet or J-Dub or Shea to look at the results of game 1 and want to get it all back and want to press and want to do whatever it takes to erase narratives if you're Chet and J-Dub, or just will your team to a win if you're SGA. But what did the Thunder do instead? They just had their 0-0 mentality and they made the right decisions. And they made the right simple reads that bended the Denver defense. And they did that especially well off of SGA and his scoring gravity, which, if you're keeping track at home, was the very thing that we talked for the last 2 podcasts about them not having that rhythm and flow offensively when Shea was in the game. They did so tonight. And this looked like the team that you saw for the entirety of the regular season and for that Memphis series. But OKC punched first, which is in stark contrast again to game 1, where they got off to a bad start. And to their credit, in game 1, they did get the car back on the road before faltering late, but they didn't just punch first. What was the other adjustment that we highlighted yesterday? You've got to close these quarters strong. OKC did that. To me, the Thunder played on the balls of their feet in this game instead of on their heels. The Thunder got punched first yesterday. In game 1, I should say. They got punched first. The Thunder didn't close quarters strong, and the Thunder played not to lose in game 1. All of that did a 180 in game number 2 as the Thunder registered the highest scoring half of NBA basketball in the postseason, 87 points in that half. The Thunder win the turnover battle after being crushed in game 1, validating that it was all simply effort. It was all simply just not doing the things you were supposed to be doing in a playoff game. Because my whole point of that the last 2 days was, you don't even have to win the rebounding battle, but you can't get crushed. And they didn't tonight. They won the rebounding battle in this game. They won the turnover battle 20-9. So this team, if you're keeping track at home, because we like to point out the things that they don't translate over, it's only fair to point out the things that they do translate over. This has been a historically great team the last 2 years of creating stocks, blocks, and steals, and creating turnovers. And the Memphis series and in this series, they've been continuing that trend of high turnover games of their opponent. And then in this game, the Thunder dominate points in the paint. They win second chance points. They dominate fast break points. And the Thunder made 50% of their shots, 56% to be exact, 44% of their threes, 91% at the free throw line. The Thunder are too talented. They're too good that if you put out those shooting numbers, you're going to win. You're going to beat anybody. Now, what made it look horrendous was that Denver shot a measly 37% from the floor, 40% from 3, and 78% at the free throw line. But none of this is possible. All of the things that's led to this point of talking about how the Thunder turned this series around and swung this series in a big way, whereas you canvass the league and see these eye-popping results and the parity that's been bred across the association of the Thunder are the only team in the second round who's had home court advantage and has won a game to this point. Boston's down 0-2. Cleveland's down 0-2.
Mikko Rantanen is the gift that keeps on giving.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars.
The man, the myth, the moose, Mikko Rantanen. Another hat trick for Mikko. He becomes the third player in NHL history with a hat trick in consecutive playoff games, and the first since Jari Kurri in 1985. He has been in on 12 straight postseason goals for the Dallas Stars, the most in NHL history. This is some legendary stuff Mikko Rantanen is doing. Players with back-to-back playoff hat tricks, NHL history. I mentioned Yari Curry. The other one was Doug Bentley in 1944, games 4 and 5 of the semifinals. Just incredible playmaking and elite goal scoring ability from Mikko Rantanen. It cannot be understated. And once again, I say this is why you go out and get players like Mikko Rantanen for these moments. And he was brilliant tonight, not just offensively, made some fantastic defensive plays late, more than I can say with a few others. We'll get to them in a bit, but Rantanen just had his fingerprints all over this game. And yeah, he got a fortuitous bounce on the power play goal. The Stars did a lot of things right in this road victory. A lot of things right. Got off to a really nice start. Yeah, they gave up the first goal, but that sort of seems to be the theme for whatever reason this postseason. And it just felt like once they got going, they were going to find a way, and boom, Rantanen explodes. I think the game should have been a little easier for Dallas if the Stars were a bit sharper. I think you could say the same about Winnipeg as well. I think Dallas was lucky in some spots. Their puck management late wasn't that great. Out of their own zone was pretty poor. A lot of giveaways tonight by Dallas, a lot of turnovers. And I think if Winnipeg was a bit sharper, they would have buried some of them. And they buried the one late in the second period. And I predicted a 3-2 victory. I don't know if that's how I envision the Stars getting to a 3-2 win on the road. If you joined us for our Game 1 preview with Sam Nessler. But boy, I'll take it. And Rantanen is incredible. I'll say it again. I don't know how you can give that man away. How could you trade him? Not once or twice. And the real big question is, how is he doing this without Nathan MacKinnon? I won't let anybody down because they were on Stars fans. They were on our community for months at a time about Mikko. Well, it's our time to soak it all in and throw jabs back at them, because this man has single-handedly just won a Game 7 and now Game 1 in Winnipeg. And Dallas gets off to a great start, man. 8 consecutive Game 1 losses finally snaps. Who knew? You just needed Mikko. What a performance from him. And there's some others I want to highlight in the game too. Sam Steele, incredible work on the PK. Oscar Beck had an excellent play on the power play late in the second period or maybe it wasn't late, it was about halfway through the game for Winnipeg, and he lifted the stick on Velarde. It was on the Jamie Benn minor penalty. Made a really nice defensive play there. Beck didn't play a ton in this game. They were double shifting Mikko, which I loved. He has the hot hand. Play him. He played over 20 minutes a night in Colorado. He's played a little less since he got over to Dallas, but they're starting to let the leash off a bit. And it would be nice if there's some other trios that could give them some juice, but the Stars can work with this. They need some other trios to start chipping in a bit. That's for sure. But we all know this Finn line is working tremendously. So they're going to have to continue to tweak and change some wingers here and there to find out what works. But I did want to highlight Beck and Steele. I thought they were instrumental in the win tonight. And Beck didn't play a ton, but made those moments important, made impactful plays. The game score for Rantanen, 4.76. When he was on the ice for Dallas, I think this pretty much sums it up. The amount of scoring chances at 5-on-5 when he was on the ice was 13. In all situations, it was 14. I just thought he was really, really brilliant. 6 high danger scoring chances, and look at the goals he scored. They weren't pretty. The one he just one hands it because he's at the top of the crease. It's where he scored goals this time of year. Second one's a deflection. Again, where is he? In front of the net. And then the third, he gets a fortunate bounce. And good for him to just put it on net. I think even if that doesn't get the fortunate bounce, hence probably buries it. But all the scoring in the second period, Winnipeg's transition game was really good. Dallas had some issues with their speed. The CC and Lindell pairing has me so worried because, number one, they struggle with some of the speed, and they were giving the puck away way too much. And I thought Winnipeg again had some opportunities to really make Dallas pay, and they just maybe weren't perfect. They failed to get a puck on net. Maybe the chance just skipped away. So Dallas needs to be a lot cleaner. That's for sure. But all in all, I thought a really, really solid road game, and that third period was pretty good. That was a big test for Dallas, and I think they passed it. They didn't pass with flying colors, but to kind of hang in there and do what they needed to do. And Otter came up with some massive stops late, massive saves. He made the one on Scheifele really late in regulation, and then that huge scrum, which, my goodness, I thought they were going to pot it home, and the Jets were going to do it again late in regulation. But Lindell was in there, and CC again. Like I give them props because they are playing heavy minutes, and they have to play against some of the best talent for Winnipeg. So they're going to give up some looks, but they have to be much better on some of their breakout passes. That's where they were causing issues for themselves. Some of it was just self-imposed because they weren't making smart plays, and we saw that a bit in the second. Like Dallas had some stretches where they were just a bit stagnant, and they didn't have a ton of momentum, and they weren't making clean plays. But when Mikko is humming, he can sort of cover that up, and just every time he came out on the ice, it just seemed like good things were happening. And even late in that third period, Dallas didn't have a ton of shifts in the offensive zone. The one opportunity that they had, which was a great look, was that Granlund chance with about 2.5 minutes left. Hellbuck made a really nice glove save on Granlund, who created the play. Rantanen on the forecheck, won a battle, and then worked it out in front. And I just thought to myself, he needs to play the rest of the game. He was so strong. Dallas got outshot 10-4, and it's not pretty, but I expect that to some degree for Dallas. They're not going to have a ton of offensive zone time when they're leading in a third period. It wasn't an awful period outside of the penalty taken by Seguin. Not a terrible period. And I was sweating out the entire final 20 minutes, but they got it done. Bishop, Petrovic, again, they are elevating and playing above expectations. Just phenomenal stuff from them. That pair has really been, they've been a shutdown pairing. You look at the 5-on-5 expected goals against numbers. Petrovic 0.05. Bishop 0. Like, that's great stuff. And they didn't play a lot in the game. Bishop played 10-22 at 5-on-5. What were the total time on ice numbers? Bishop ended up playing 10-25. Petrovic 12-10. They didn't play a ton. But they found a way, and they didn't, and Dallas didn't have to tax some of their big guys that much. Like Harley played 24.5. Lindell played the most because Dallas was down a man, 4 times in the game. The penalty kill has been brilliant. If Dallas's penalty kill wasn't as lights out as it has been, their penalties would just absolutely haunt them, and they may have not gotten through the first round, and they may have not won this game against Winnipeg. But they found a way. I like, they haven't had a lot of luck in these game ones, and I thought they went in and they just played a really, really nice game. Thought they had the best start of the postseason, although they weren't leading and they gave up the first goal for whatever reason. But it just felt like they were in this tonight, and they were engaged. And I did like some of the line combinations.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple, and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company instead of hiring full-time. Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The Leafs Game 2 win over the Panthers.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Leafs with a 4-3 win in Game 2 and take a 2-0 series lead over the Florida Panthers. Dave, how we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Not much. The blood pressure wasn't as high in this one as it was for Game 1. Game 1 was just like like the stress of that one, blowing having the lead shrink like that. It's just like it was like going on a massive roller coaster in that one. This one here was satisfying because yes, while they did have to hold on to a lead once again, it was a very close one. You saw a big pushback from this team where the Panthers took the lead. They took the lead. Leafs then got their own lead. Panthers tie it. The Leafs then go pull ahead. And to me, that speaks to just the mental resolve of this team. Past years, I don't know if they win this game. I really don't know if they win a game like this. And I think that's what makes me feel way more optimistic this time around. This team's got more of the mental resolve than we've come to know of this group.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Like and this is, that was obviously a big thing that we saw happen in Game 6 against Ottawa, right? Like they give up the lead, but then they're able, quick strike, quick response. The next shift they scored and take the lead back. I mean, that's what happened, right? They gave up that third goal to Anton Lundell, kind of a tough bounce, goes off his skate, and then he gets a stick on it, and all of a sudden it's a tie 3-3 game, and Florida at that point, I guess, has momentum, but no, they send out the big boys who, really didn't have a good game. We could be honest with ourselves. That top line didn't play well tonight. They're playing in their own end for most of the night, but they came up clutch when they needed it. Obviously, they get put out there, and 17 seconds later, Mitch Marner from a pretty bad angle ends up roofing it. And I'm sure it's one that Bobrovsky wishes he had back, wishes he maybe had an extra second to find the puck. But 17 seconds after Lundell ties the game, the Leafs able to take back the lead. And it really is, again, something that just didn't happen with this team in the past. And that's another one of those reasons to believe in maybe what this team is selling as to be real. Like that's what they need. They need that, mental fortitude. They need the gumption to be able to put, goals like that away and be like, all right, they got one. They got back in this game, but guess what? We can still go out there and we could still score. Like this is still very much anyone's game at that moment. It's not like they lost. And they didn't look at it that way. They said, all right, let's get it back. And 17 seconds later, they did. So, I thought that, the Leafs, was it a Picasso performance? Was it a great game? No, it was more of a Jackson Pollock where it was a little messy, but they got it done. They won the game. They're up 2-0. Joseph Woll, a little shaky at times, but he came up big when they needed him to, right? He made a couple of big stops there late in the third period. The team in front of him played extremely well, blocking shots, giving him opportunities. They have 24, 25 block shots tonight. Like that's what they're doing. They're getting in front of pucks, and that's the stuff that's been missing in years past, right? They didn't have the defensemen who were really willing and capable of eating pucks that way. Simon Benoit, 5 blocks. Chris Tanev, 5 blocks. Brandon Carlo, 3 blocks. Like these guys who've come in the last year or two, just completely just changed and reshaped what this blue line is and the identity of what they're willing to do. And it's been a big reason for why they've had a lot of success in this postseason. And no matter who's in goal, whether it's Stolars or whether it's Woll, they're going to give the goalie a better chance to win the game because of the way they play in front of them. And I thought that was a big reason for why they were able to get the dub tonight, despite, the change in net.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of things kind of thrown around with the Leafs, right? You got a new goaltender, right? And I always say, like, the defense always has to adjust to what the goaltender's doing. right? Yeah, they played in front of Joseph Wall all year, but they haven't played in front of Joseph Wall in a while, right? They've gotten used to what Anthony Stolarz has been doing in this playoffs.
Was it
so like
18 days since his last start?
Right. So there is something to say about that. But like Florida was all over them in their own zone. Like,
Yes.
This is the one if we're looking at one thing that everything's kind of feeling pretty good right now. Like the Leafs got caved in heavily tonight. And that's something there where I'm at the point where it's like you got to find a way to improve on that, because it's not going to be able to sustain itself for the rest of the years. Yes, I know you're up 2-0.
Yeah.
But Florida, if I'm Florida right now, I'm saying, our goaltender hasn't been good. We haven't capitalized enough on our chances, but this was a game here where if we played it again, maybe it could be a different outcome, right? The deserve win meter was 74.8% for Panthers.
Yeah, I mean,
that game again. I don't know if Toronto gets as lucky on some the Leafs capitalize on certain things really well, but if we're looking at how the Panthers played all game, I would say there's going to be some areas where they would probably like to capitalize a little better on.
No doubt about it. I think the Maple Leafs are lucky to have won this game. Like we'll call a spade, right? I think the Panthers were the better team tonight, but sometimes the better team doesn't win. How many times has Toronto been the better group, but just somehow find a way to lose games, or they run into a hot goaltender, or the offense runs dry, or the power play can't get it going? Like this has happened to Toronto a lot over the course of the last 8 years, and it seems like this year they're finally getting the bounces, right? Like the puck. Rebound bounces perfectly onto Pacioretty's stick, and there's nobody on him. He has a wide open net just to put it, into the back of the net to get the Leafs on the board. It's like that stuff like that just wasn't happening in the past. Like usually there's no space. He could have literally sat on his ass, did a couple of twirls, played, go duck, duck, goose with the puck, and still have time to shoot and score. Like it was insane how much time he had. But yeah, like it wasn't necessarily a great game by Toronto. Obviously, you noted it. So it was 74% deserve to win meter in favor of the Panthers. Well, yeah, natural stat trick. You're looking at the expected goals. 66% of the expected goals in favor of the Florida Panthers in all situations. Like Toronto scored 4 goals, but only had an expected goals of 1.85. So, Bobrovsky not quite on his, not quite as sharp as he typically is. Like that Marner goal, not one that typically should be going in, right? The game winner. But hey, you're getting lucky. The Maple Leafs getting a little lucky, and that's what they've lacked for many years. And it's like eventually the tide has to turn. And it's kind of turning right now. Like they were outshot 29-20. They were outchanced 34-15. The high danger chances were 17-7, all in favor of the Florida Panthers. But the scoreboard read 4-3 Toronto, and they came away with the win. And they win both of their games in Toronto, and now have set themselves up very nicely heading down to Sunrise for game number 3 on Friday.
And per NHL PR, Maple Leafs take a 2-0 series lead in back-to-back series for the first time since 1963.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 67. I thought you were going to say 67.
I wish it was 67, but
they still did win the cup in 63, if I'm not mistaken.
But isn't that crazy that this team has not had 2-0 series lead in back-to-back series since 63? That to me is crazy.
That's like 63 years ago.
Yeah, it's
right?
Crazy.
It's insane. This team has not been able to have that much success in the postseason, where they haven't been able to go up 2-0 in that span. But I mean, hey, I don't think anybody thought that this was going to be the case for the Maple Leafs. I mean, there's a lot of doubters out there that said, the Panthers, like they're not going to be able to beat Florida. And you looked at the underlying numbers against Ottawa, and it was like, man, the Senators, like they kind of had the more favorable possession metrics. Like if you play the Panthers that way, there's no shot that they can win. Like that was the mentality of Leafs Nation coming into the series. And here we are, a couple games in, the Maple Leafs 2, Panthers none. Like it's funny because the Leafs have been on the right side of the possession metrics for many, many years and on the wrong side of the scoreboard. And it seems like this year everything's kind of flipped. I guess that's what playoff hockey is all about, right? Like you just have to hope you get good bounces, you capitalize on the few chances you get, and you have to make one extra save than the other goalie. And tonight, Joseph Woll was able to do that.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, and you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
It happened again. The Boston Celtics collapsed again. They're down 0-2 to the Knicks. How did this happen again to the Celtics? The Celtics were up by 20 again. And it looked very similar, right? They were up 70-50. The Knicks hit a 3. The Celtics answered. It was 73-51. Very similar to game 2, which was a couple minutes earlier in the third quarter, but the Celtics went 72-52. The Knicks hit a 3. The Celtics answered. It was 75-55. And then the Knicks started walking down the lead. They did the same thing here. And then the fourth quarter happened, and it was an unmitigated disaster. A disaster. The Celtics went 8 minutes and 21 seconds. 8 minutes and 21 seconds without making a basket. Peyton Pritchard hit a 3 with 8:40 to go. Then the next basket the Celtics made was Jason Tatum, a dunk with 19 seconds to go. How is that possible that the Celtics, this offense, this high-powered offense, I sat here and was like, oh, yeah, the Celtics are going to feel all this unencumbered against this Knicks defense, which is okay, but not great. And, yeah, the Celtics going to have some fun here. The Celtics going to be more like themselves. And you cannot score. The Boston Celtics cannot score a bucket in more than 8 minutes in the fourth quarter against the New York Knicks. What is your problem? So the Celtics offense again disappeared. Just like game 1. The Celtics scored 23 points in the third quarter and 16 in the fourth. In game 2, it was 23 points in the third quarter and 17 in the fourth. 2 straight games of fourth quarter 16 and 17 points. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And this is where I start to get like, this time I'm worked up because I laughed off that first game because I thought, okay, outlier shooting, bad, just a bad shooting night. A couple of makes here and there, and this is a different story. And honestly, it's the same, literally the same thing. I could have recued the last podcast and maybe had AI change my voice to just update the details, and that would have been fine. I don't know if anybody would have known the difference because it's the same story. Although the Celtics weren't just putting up threes, they were attacking. The Celtics didn't attack. The attacking didn't go particularly great either. It's not like the Celtics were getting to the rim with super effectiveness and were scoring and then they abandoned it. That they were not great in the paint. In fact, let's see here. The Celtics were I'm going to open up this thing real quick, and maybe I can share the shot chart. Well, it doesn't matter. They were 16 of 21 in the paint, but they missed a bunch of them early. I'm sorry, at the restricted area. There were 5 of 21 outside the restricted area, but they missed a bunch of layups early on. They had some success later, but they missed a bunch early on. And ultimately, in the paint, overall paint numbers, 21 of 42, 50% in the paint, which should be much higher than that. But the Celtics weren't effective in any offensive manner. They just weren't. I just cannot understand the lack of poise. And which team out there is the team that won the championship, and which is the one that's learning how to play with each other in the playoffs for the first time? Which one is it? Because I'm looking at the Celtics and saying, boy, if this was last year, I would have understood it. 2 years ago, I would have understood it. Post-championship, I don't understand this performance. Let me quickly explain the timeout before I get into my rant. So the Celtics were down 1, and Jalen Brunson gets the foul on Drew Holiday. Holiday knew it. He was pissed at himself. Celtics down 1, right? 13 seconds to go with 1 timeout. And people are saying, you call the timeout and set up a play. It's the NBA. First of all, it's the NBA. You know your plays. You know what to run. Everybody should be pretty well versed, right? You've had a stoppage with the free throws. Any subs you needed to make could have been made. The Celtics didn't make any. The Knicks made theirs. So you knew what your matchups were going to be. You can call them out. There was no reason to stop and draw things up on a board. You knew you have a bunch of plays that you can set. You have a whole playbook. You have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Al Horford and Drew Holiday. You have guys who have done it. Like I said, they've won a championship. So with 13 seconds left, down 1, you push to get down the floor because you want to preserve that timeout in case you miss. If you call a timeout, you go down, you miss, and then you foul, you leave yourself with a full court. So you're down 1. You go down, you miss, you foul somebody, they hit 2 free throws. By the time you inbound it, you have 1-2 seconds to get the ball up the floor. That's desperation. But if you come down with 13 seconds, you got 3 or 4 seconds to advance it. That's 9-10 seconds to get it over half. By the time you get over half court, you should have 3 or 4 seconds, which is a lot of time. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004. That's a lot of time for pick, cut, something to put a shot up. In fact, when Jason Tatum drove left, it looked like he was going to get a baseline shot up, a baseline fadeaway. Maybe not the best shot in the world, but it looked to be like he was going to get that fadeaway in a clean look, but he decided to pass it out at the last second. And by the way, side note, when I say Jason Tatum post fadeaways is the playoff shot, that's the Paul Pierce type of play that you should have gone to in that situation. That's why he's Jason Tatum. That's why you have a guy like that to hit those shots in those moments. You got to Paul Pierce that thing. Okay, fine. I thought he was going to take that baseline jumper. So you don't call the timeout because it didn't look like he was stuck. It looked like he was getting to a spot, rising up and shooting. At that point, 4 seconds, the shot goes up, 1,003. It was either going to miss, maybe you get the offensive rebound put back, but if they get the rebound, you get a chance to foul. Even if it's with 1.5 seconds left, at least with the foul, you come down, they hit 1 or 2, then you call the timeout. That's when you call the timeout. Advance the ball, and now you give yourself a second opportunity to at least tie the game or win the game, depending on how the free throw game goes. That's why you hold on to the timeout in that situation. You rely on NBA pros to run a play, which they should be able to do, get a shot off, which they should have been able to do, and then you save the timeout in case you miss. If he hits it, great. Now you play defense for 2 seconds, win the game, go home. It's the NBA. It's not college. It's not middle school. It's not high school. It's the NBA. Trust your players, championship caliber players, to come down and make a play, get a shot off. You save that timeout for the just in case you stay cold and the shot doesn't fall. That's why you save the timeout. That was the right call. I was talking about it on Media Row while a free throw was going on. I was sitting there talking to Bobby Manning of CLNS. He was like, you don't call a timeout, or do you call it? No, you don't call a timeout. You just go. I knew ahead of time you don't call a timeout. That's just, to me, that's basic. And it played out. The only problem I have was that the Celtics players did not execute in that moment.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company instead of hiring full-time. Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The Dallas Cowboys finally have their number 2 receiver.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
The Cowboys were potentially making a deal for a number 2 receiver. They got one today. George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a 24-year-old receiver. The Cowboys gave up a 2026 third-round pick and a fifth-round pick in exchange for Pickens and a sixth-round pick. We'll discuss the trade. We'll get all into that in a second, but the player, what do we know about George Pickens?
Man, I think if you looked at all the guys that we had discussed, right, as potential folks to come in here, via trade, via signing, maybe even including the guys in the draft as well, that could, on the field, give you the greatest increase at wide receiver 2. I think George Pickens was the top guy, right? Like every situation has warts, and trust me, we are going to talk about the warts, right? But as far as talent, fit, on the field, fit what how you want to deploy them, fit and how what you're looking for your wide receiver to provide to your offense. This is it, right? This is a big-bodied, down the field receiver who is a vertical threat. And again, I think, the even when we've talked about other vertical threats, right? It's usually been kind of in the Tyreek Hill mold or even some of these other, down, kind of smaller, more diminutive speed guys. Those aren't necessarily the kind of guys that Dak likes to throw down to the ball down the field to. He likes the bigger wide receivers. So what do? They go out and get a guy who is basically Michael Gallup on steroids, right? And it's like he's a down the field but big body receiver. He's a contested catch guy as well. So I as far as the fit on the field goes, unbelievable. They knocked it out. They hit a home run as far as the talent that they're putting over at wide receiver 2. It fits with what they want to do. It fits with the scheme that they're running, and it fits with the kind of player that Dak likes to throw the ball down the field to.
So I've had the ability to watch Pickens from day one in Athens to when he was doing crazy stuff in the Trobe during training camp. This is a supremely talented player. And when I mean supremely, I mean like he is so natural as a receiver. And some of the things that he can do, contorting his body, it's unreal. Like you guys are going to see this in training camp. Like there's going to be clips every single day of George Pickens making these unreal catches down the sideline. And you're going to wonder how in the world did the Cowboys steal this player for a 3rd round pick? So the player, I have really no concerns about him as a wide receiver too. I've always thought he's been a little bit overmatched as a wide receiver 1 because he's not the most refined player.
Yeah.
He's so good at beating one-on-one coverage. And that's what the Cowboys needed. Somebody who could play the X receiver spot that could make plays vertically and keep defenses from doubling CeeDee Lamb. I just anticipate we're going to see a bunch of cover 2 now for the Cowboys, which is great if they really want to work on this run game.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they're looking for, right? Someone to force defenses to get into cover 2 so that you can punish them in the run game, right? And take that extra man out of the box and now punish them in the run game. And when they drop that safety back down into the box, then you're going back over the top with Pickens. So yeah, I think this is exactly why they wanted that type of deep threat receiver. And again, I think it's one thing to have a guy that is a fast guy who could run down the field. Those guys, they can also affect the defense because you have to account for those guys. But Pickens, to me, is the type of deep ball receiver that Dak will actually throw the ball to and will actually make completions down the field to. Look at Dak's history of throwing deep balls. And look, I mean, Brandon Cooks was here for how long? And how many times did we actually see him running a 9 route that Dak was actually throwing the ball and he was, getting completions? It was more like over routes and that sort of thing. Dak hasn't had a guy like that he's felt comfortable throwing that ball to since Michael Gallup or Cooper. And what did those guys have in common with Pickens? Big body receivers who can get down the field and then finish when they get down the field. So as far as the fit goes, again, home run for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like even Michael Gallup, like 2019, 2020 Michael Gallup, isn't the same.
He's not this guy. Yeah.
No. And the difference is a lot of Michael Gallup's catches were contested, right? Like he had to make unbelievable grabs. And Pickens can do that as well. Now, the contested catch rate has dropped a little bit over the last couple of years. And honestly, that's probably more of an Arthur Smith, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields thing. I could go on and on with the quarterbacks. But the difference is he can run away from your cornerbacks. And when he was in Pittsburgh the last couple of years, he's been the de facto wide receiver 1. He's the guy that opposing defenses have put their number 1 corner on. That's not going to be the case in Dallas. He's going to face cornerback 2s every single week. And he theoretically should eat those cornerbacks alive.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think he's gonna. It works for both sides, and I think and we'll talk about that with the fit and the risk aspect of this. But part of the reason that I am on board with this a lot more than maybe normally is that Pickens is in a situation where he needs to make his money too, right? And I think Pickens realized, especially after the line of quarterbacks that he's had these last few years, that Dak Prescott is a guy who can get him paid, right? Yeah. So if he kind of is willing to buy into that and understand that if his buy-in will give him cash at the end of this, this could be a nice symbiotic relationship between the Cowboys and Pickens.
And I do want to talk about that really quickly before we move on. We already got a report today that the Cowboys and Pickens are planning on letting the season play out.
Yep.
Which honestly makes me feel better about the trade. Usually when you make these trades, you want to lock up the player long-term. But I think in this case, it makes sense for both sides to let this thing play out, see what the fit is like in the locker room. You and I were discussing this a couple of weeks ago before the draft. Yep. We thought there was a chance that you could get the best version of George Pickens in 2025 because he's in a contract year and he's going to have to be on his best behavior. It could be a little bit expensive for a 1-year rental, right? Like usually you don't want to give away 3rd-round picks. And I've heard the argument, well, you could turn around and get a comp pick back for him and it ends up being a pick swap. I don't disagree, but there is part of me that thinks like, hey, if the Cowboys are willing to let him walk, maybe the year didn't go as well as planned. And because he was off so many draft boards, according to Bob McGinn in 2022, maybe the market won't be as strong as what we would think.
I have a hard time believing that he won't get any kind of market.
He'll get
maybe not the market that nets you potentially a 3rd or 4th round pick in the comp pick situation. But even if it's like a 5th, right? Like now you're just still talking about a a pick swap, which is
Yes.
probably, you know, worth a 4th round pick, right? So, you know, you have to look at it as a pick swap, I think, because you're gaining a comp pick. We just don't know what the result of that is.
Yes. I do think that's important to mention, but as of right now, it feels like it's a 1-year rental with a pick swap. And again, when you're talking about hopefully not a top 75 pick in the draft, I just don't care a ton. Because look at the names of the players that were drafted like in the 80s and 90s this year. It's like backup quarterbacks and receivers that we've never heard of before. So that part of it doesn't stress me out at all. I'm just pointing that out there.